Alright, hello everybody, my name is Troy Harrison Chriest, and on today's 4K 60 FPS video, I'm going to be attempting to answer the question, is Kingdom Come Deliverance better than The Witcher 3? How does someone compare two role-playing games, similar in nature, but with less similarities than differences? How does somebody claim one game is better than the other without the argument sounding like, my dad can beat up your dad? How can I make a serious video about this without thousands of hive mind YouTube commenters saying things like, comparing these two games is like comparing apples to oranges? If you have half a brain, you should be able to logically argue apples to oranges. If you stay inside all day playing video games, maybe you need some vitamin D. Also, probably some vitamin C. Go eat some oranges and then go outside. If all you eat is chips and junk food, eat an apple. You most likely need some fiber. Both of these games are very fun, but if you like high fantasy, go get The Witcher 3. If you hear realistic medieval role-playing game, Kingdom Come Deliverance is the sure shot. If you have $60 and for some random reason you haven't played either of these games, I will give you my brutally honest, opinionated answer to the question, is Kingdom Come Deliverance better than The Witcher 3? If you have played both of these games, you might already know my answer, and be sure to let me know in the comments politely if you agree or disagree, and we can have a lovely conversation about it. This comparison will be split into 3 categories, each with 3 subsections for a total of 9 possible scoring points: gameplay, story, and graphics. The game with the majority of the 9 points is the winner. Let's get right into it. Real quick, if you're feeling pretty ballsy, try the Troy Harrison Chriest drinking game if you dare. Have a drink or smoke a thing every time I say either Kingdom Come Deliverance or The Witcher 3. Just to let you know, Troy Harrison Chriest is not responsible for any injuries if someone was to win such a game. Good luck. When comparing two open-world role-playing games, I would say the most logical place to start the comparison is with gameplay. What is it like to play the game? What are we going to be doing for the most part? To me, this section comes down to which game is more fun to play all night. Both games are set in a medieval setting and share a few gameplay features. Horseback riding and fist fighting are obvious, but most important, melee and sword combat. Swords being the main weapon in both games, I think this is a great place to start. This is not comparing all of the combat in both games, but for right now, let's just focus on sword fighting. Kingdom Come Deliverance is basically as close to realistic medieval sword fighting as you are going to find in a AAA role-playing game. Fighting feels very similar to the hardcore multiplayer medieval combat simulators like Chivalry and the upcoming Mordhau, but also manages to keep the controls simple and feel accessible to the average gamer. There are 5 directional attacks and a stab that can be combined into deadly combinations. Also, in KCD, blocking, parrying, and dodging take more than the click of a button and can take a little while to master. Some people are not a fan of the lock-on combat, but I enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun, and I find it very easy to pop back and forth between enemies and also avoid any strikes that are coming at you. I think it's a really great time. This combines into one of the most interesting combat systems that I've played in a while. Once you have mastered Kingdom Come Deliverance's sword fights, you feel like you have spent the time to learn and achieve something very difficult. I could play the entire game with a sword, mace, or axe and be completely happy. While The Witcher 3's swordplay is the main source of combat, it has to fit into a large mosaic of skills and magic. Not to mention, it has to be extremely smooth for the very fast-paced combat. Geralt's sword style is obviously less realistic than what you see in Kingdom Come Deliverance, but this isn't what CD Projekt Red was going for. Overall, The Witcher 3's sword battles are just fun. Instead of a knight in shining armor, Geralt's combat fits the character, fast-paced, aggressive monster slayer. But when it comes down to a detailed, realistic sword fighting combat system, I feel like Kingdom Come Deliverance absolutely wins. In a fight to the death with only swords, Geralt would destroy Henry. But when it comes down to which game has the better sword combat, Kingdom Come Deliverance takes the cake. Kingdom Come Deliverance simply does sword fighting better. 1-0, KCD in the lead. For the next scoring section, let's compare combat overall. Both games feature other options in dealing with enemies, and besides featuring sword combat, the two aren't drastically different in the rest of the fighting systems. Kingdom Come Deliverance has more combat options like legitimate archery, not the half-assed crossbow, also maces and axes being a real option when fighting. Yes, in The Witcher, you could use them, but they were never amazing choices over Witcher Gear swords. Also, KCD features stealth options for almost every mission instead of full-out combat every time. Even with better sword combat and all of these options, honestly, combat-wise, I would rather play The Witcher 3. Just with 5 signs and 2 swords and a third-person camera, The Witcher 3 manages to be one of the best gameplay experiences of all time. So fluid, so quick, so brutal. Like I said earlier in the gameplay section, this is about fun. While I think KCD's sword combat is more fun, the overall package with The Witcher 3 just works a lot better in my opinion. In Kingdom Come, if you are good with a bow, you use it on everybody. In The Witcher 3, there are so many different enemy types that it adds another layer of stuff to think about other than the guy is not wearing a helmet, let's shoot him right there. Certain monsters have to be dealt with in a specific way, and it will always keep you on your toes. Should I spam Quen and avoid people, or drop Yurden, trap, and slow the enemy? I'm all for realism in games, and I love Kingdom Come Deliverance, but damn, you cannot beat the variety of enemy combinations that lead to engagements which tend to never feel the same as the last one. I think The Witcher 3 has the better overall combat. Point Geralt. And it's all tied up at 1-1. Alright, for the last scoring point in the gameplay section, let's talk about perks and leveling. The two games do this very differently. In Kingdom Come, you level up a perk as you use it. In The Witcher 3, as you level, you can decide which mutagens to focus after gaining a standard level up point, which can go into any section. It does a great job of making the player manage what you are leveling by giving you a limited amount of perk slots. This makes players plan out which mutagens they want later on. For me, I enjoyed this leveling system a lot better than how it was handled in Kingdom Come Deliverance. Instead of a small list of perks that drastically help you depending on your choice, Kingdom Come has a ton of perks that apply to everything in the game, not just combat. This is nice that everything you do in the game is leveled, but maybe 30% of the perks seem absolutely pointless. To me, it seems like having a lot of perks for the sake of having a lot of perks. After 20 hours into the game, I stopped reading the perks and I just started learning them. Maybe that has something to do with the menus being an absolute mess, but I think they wanted to have a ton of perks instead of making a smaller list with more obvious benefits. And I think this was a bad choice. Also, we cannot give a score quite yet because I have yet to talk about the difficulty curve for the perks and leveling category. Do these games get too easy, too quick? Are they too hard at certain points? Let's dive in. In The Witcher 3, the world scales to your level, and I never felt under or overpowered while playing through the story. If the game did get too easy, you could go into the difficulty menu and make it ridiculously hard if you actually wanted to. In Kingdom Come Deliverance, each NPC has their own combat and speech skill that will be rolled against the player's level to determine difficulty of the engagement. This is a great idea in theory, but in execution, it falls completely flat. And basically, at the start of the game, most players will feel 100% overwhelmed by the difficulty of the combat, some having troubles with 1v1 fights. This, however, doesn't last long. If you take maybe 10 hours off the main quest line and do activities that will level your various combat perks, the combat difficulty goes from extremely challenging to a one-stab simulator way too quick. This is where the lack of a difficulty setting gets a little annoying. While playing, you will go from peasant noob to best knight in Bohemia in about a day of owning the game. I just want to crank the difficulty so it's fun again. It isn't fun to take out 6 bandits with 12 swings. For me, The Witcher 3 is the obvious winner for perks and leveling. The score is 2-1. The Witcher 3 is in the lead. Obviously, there are a few gameplay features in both games that I have not mentioned yet, but I would like to move on to the story section, so this video is not an hour long. The 3 scoring sections that will make up the story category is comprised of characters, plot and writing, and of course, questing. Starting off with characters, let's first focus on the main protagonist for each story, Sir Henry of Silver Skalitz and Geralt of Rivia. Henry is the son of a blacksmith and overall normal dude. Geralt of Rivia, the White Wolf, the Butcher of Blaviken, the hero of Toussaint, and overall badass monster slaying, bandit flaying, and sorceress slaying medieval super mutant who wields spells. Let's say you've never heard of either games, and I described those 2 characters and said, which game do you want to play? If you said Henry, you might want to go check your testosterone levels. Yes, I love playing Kingdom Come Deliverance as Henry. I even named my new husky puppy Henry. But when comparing 2 games that do not feature character customization for the faces, I have to say I would rather play as Geralt. Mr. Rivia is one of the top 3 pop culture badasses of all time. I will let you guys think of the other 2 in the comments. When designing a character for a role-playing game without facial customization, you can either go the Kingdom Come Deliverance route and try to create a person that enough players can identify with their motivations and struggles, also a person that can be sort of a blank slate that the player can morph their playstyle to their morals. Or you can go the Witcher 3 style and just try and make a hero that people look up to. Some people like to say that neither of these games are role-playing games because you cannot pick what face you get. In my not-so-humble opinion, who cares? I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to play a video game to see a person who looks like me. Who wants to play as a 21-year-old Greek, Irish, Scottish blonde dude with a drinking and smoking problem? I know I don't. I would rather play as something I could never be. A sword-fighting super mutant magic wielder, a 7-foot-tall UNSC Spartan, a renegade space commander who bangs blue ladies. So obviously, in my opinion, Geralt is more fun to play than Henry boy. I know I went on and on about the main protagonist, and that is just one part of the character's scoring section, but we still have to talk about the supporting cast and the villains before I can give a score on characters. While The Witcher 3 is a much larger game than Kingdom Come Deliverance, I personally think it manages to create a better plethora of likable side characters and small engagements that I remember vividly to this day. People like Yennefer of Vengerberg, Dandelion, Triss Marigold, and of course, Master Vesemir. In comparison, I've been playing through KCD very recently, and I can't think of one likable NPC I remember talking to. Kingdom Come Deliverance fails to make likable characters, besides Henry, and some would argue that he isn't likable as well. If you have played KCD, please let me know in the comments one NPC you were excited to return to. Even the early romance option, Teresa, is literally just that, a romance option with no interesting quest lines that she will bring you. In comparison, I remember being physically upset that I messed up a Yennefer quest towards the end of The Witcher 3. Maybe I'm being a little harsh. Obviously, it's hard to make a medieval villager interesting, but compared to The Witcher 3, I don't feel like Henry has any friends in the game, just people he talks to. So obviously, in my opinion, The Witcher 3 has the better side characters. Let's now talk about the villains before we give a score to the characters section. I really enjoyed most of the stories in The Witcher 3 because CD Projekt Red wrote in as many interesting villains for Geralt as they did allies. Kingdom Come Deliverance goes a completely different route, instead having much fewer villains that have a deeper connection to Henry's revenge. The main bad guy in Kingdom Come Deliverance is Markvart von Aulitz, a name I can barely pronounce, let alone actually care what happens to the man. The Witcher 3 has people like Gaunter O'Dim, Eredin, and Olgierd von Everec, to name a few. People you have plenty of motivation to destroy, but also you wouldn't mind having a drink with and hearing what they have to say. Maybe not Eredin. I don't care if every person in your game lived in real life and is historically accurate to the T, it still has to be fun to talk to them. If you've been paying attention for the last few minutes, you can probably tell that The Witcher absolutely wins the character section. Point The Witcher 3. I know I talked a ton about characters for only 1 point, but a game with boring characters can ruin the entire experience. Mass Effect Andromeda. Alright, the score is 3-1 with The Witcher in the lead. Thank you all for watching so far. Let's keep going. Alright, this next scoring section is focusing on the writing and the main plot. Yes, The Witcher 3 has many amazing storylines. The plot of the main quest, however, was not my favorite. As someone who has played both The Witcher and The Witcher 2, I was extremely confused why the main plotline was find some random girl named Ciri. A girl who isn't really Geralt's daughter and who is not mentioned by name in either of the previous games. Yes, you can hear her brief story from an innkeeper in The Witcher 1, but she isn't like, oh yes, Ciri, the lost super witcher trained by you, Geralt of Rivia. Nothing like that, it's just a cryptic story about a magic girl that Geralt doesn't even really believe. So yes, I thought this was very strange. I at least expected it to be some sort of tie-in with the events of The Witcher 2. Maybe something continuing on the storyline of the Scoia'tael and the Nilfgaard plotline, but nope. Find the ashen-haired woman. Okay then. The other main driving force of The Witcher 3's main storyline that really pissed me off was it was entirely based around gaining allies to fight the Wild Hunt. An impractical suicide mission achieved by an unlikely group of allies. I'm not sure if my subscribers are also sci-fi nerds, but this was literally a ripoff of the main gameplay and story mechanic of every single Mass Effect game. Gather allies and stop Saren. Gather allies to stop Harbinger. Gather people to stop the Reapers. They literally ripped it off, and I don't know if I'm the only one to have actually noticed this, but it was exactly the plotline of Mass Effect 1, 2, 3, and honestly, even Andromeda. I don't know about you guys, but I've done it, and I've seen it over and over again. To me, this overarching plotline was incredibly overdone. Although I am not complaining, The Witcher 3 is one of the best narrative experiences of all time. Hundreds of hours of interesting things to do, completely made up for this. In comparison, I enjoy Kingdom Come Deliverance's main story a lot more. To me, it feels like a medieval Batman story. Sir Henry is a poor man's Bruce Wayne, but he totally kills people. His parents were killed right in front of him. He is set out for retribution. He gets trained by Sir Ra's al Ghul and the League of Assassins. Oh wait, just kidding. I mean, he gets trained by Sir Radzig and the League of Dudes in Yellow. It's a great story. The game picks up pace very quickly, and you are immediately motivated on Henry's path. This comes down to the historical background and the insane writing ability by Daniel Varva to convert such an old story into an interesting AAA video game. Kingdom Come Deliverance manages to take often boring characters and turn them into interesting stories, at least in the main questline. The point for plot and writing goes to Warhorse Studios and Kingdom Come Deliverance. The score is 3-2. The Witcher 3 is still in the lead. Alright, the last section that makes up the story category will be questing, but most importantly, quest design. In which game do I have a better time running around the open world and doing every story mission, random side quest, and activity? The biggest difference that I've noticed between the two games is in The Witcher 3 is most of your decisions are decided during conversations. Then the gameplay will then follow your choice. However, in Kingdom Come Deliverance, most of your decisions are decided through gameplay. How will I beat this quest? Will I use my speech? Use my stealth? Should I bribe the NPC? Or maybe try and impress them? So many options other than balls to the wall combat. Most conversations in Kingdom Come Deliverance are pretty linear. Your biggest talking choice is, "No, I don't want to steal that for you, Mr. Miller." I wish there were more conversation, left and right choices that will actually affect the world, like in the Mass Effect and Witcher series. Both of the games have their own benefits and quirks, but in all honesty, I prefer the way Kingdom Come Deliverance does it, letting the player make decisions through their gameplay actions. Instead of making decisions while talking to one NPC that sets up a mostly linear quest, Kingdom Come Deliverance has you making decisions on the fly. Should I lockpick that? Should I wait till morning? Should I knock this guard out? Should I pickpocket him? Choices, choices, choices. All on the fly. In my opinion, I enjoy the quest design a lot more in Kingdom Come Deliverance. Point, Warhorse Studios. It is all tied up at 3-3, moving in to the graphics section, the final portion of this video. The three scoring parts of the graphics section will be performance, world design, and finally, animations and textures. These final 3 points will be the final factor for me to declare the better game between The Witcher 3 and Kingdom Come Deliverance. Starting with performance, this section is simple. Kingdom Come Deliverance runs like it has two 100-pound boulders strapped to its legs, one of those being stuttering and the other being texture pop-ins. On my rig, which is two MSI GTX 1070 8GB cards, Gaming X Edition, an Intel 6700K, and 32 gigs of RAM from a Vexier at like 3000 speed, The Witcher 3 runs butter smooth at 1080p, at 1440p, and especially at 4K 60 FPS. It runs perfectly. The Witcher 3 was designed for someone with a modern PC to actually run it in the highest settings at 4K 60 FPS. On the other hand, I see people in the comments of my Kingdom Come videos with two GTX 1080 Ti's, a Ryzen processor, and an extremely better PC than me, and they're asking, why can I not max this game out? Who was this game made for, performance-wise? SpaceX? Elon Musk? NASA? I could play The Witcher 3 4K Ultra everything, but I have to play KCD on low and medium settings to get a frame rate that does not induce vomit. Not to mention the terrible VSync that does a better job of tanking your frame rate than it does at locking it to 60. Also, there is no support for two graphics cards, which is just sad, considering how hard this game is to run on a 1080 Ti, a very expensive graphics card. If you guys have two cards, look for my SLI fix. I fixed it. It runs fine. It works. Go ahead and do that. But it's just weird that Warhorse Studios did not build it into the game, especially after it took me 1 minute on day one to fix SLI in the game. Just apply my fix to the game. It's just sad. The game is so hard to run. People have two graphics cards. Warhorse, figure it out. Okay, guys, the performance section is clearly obvious. Kingdom Come Deliverance cannot maintain a smooth frame rate no matter what the settings you are using. I can play the game at 720p low on a $3,000 computer, and it would still find spots to drop to 58 or lower. It's super sad to see a game I was extremely excited for end up performing as bad as Mafia 3. Performance point, obviously, goes to The Witcher, and the score is 4-3. The Witcher is in the lead again. This next section is focusing on world design, and it is not such an easy argument as performance. World design can make or break a game, and fortunately for us RPG fans, both of these games have incredible design for the players to run around and stare at. The Witcher 3 created a brand new fantasy kingdom up there with the likes of Game of Thrones. Gamers had never seen this before. The area had many different biomes and weather patterns. Overall, a ton of different environments for Geralt to explore. Yes, the game looks amazing, and the fantasy elements like monster caves and majestic castles are definitely at a top-notch level. But how does it compare to the ultra-realism of the Warhorse Studio art team? In Kingdom Come Deliverance, Warhorse Studios recreated a historical version of the area they actually live in. If you search Tam Burke on Google Maps with a K, you can see the modern-day map of Kingdom Come Deliverance. Everything is there. Henry's hometown of Silver Skalitz is now called Striburna Skalis. Sasau is now called Sazava, and Samopesh, well, it's just still Samopesh. Nobody has ever recreated such a realistic, historical version of a specific area in video game history. Also, on the same note, it would be very hard to give a point to world design without mentioning the forests in Kingdom Come Deliverance. It has to be one of the best looking forests in video game history, up there with Ghost Recon Wildlands and the upcoming first-person shooter Hell Let Loose. Even with the obvious downgrades from the beta, it is still one of the best looking environments I've ever seen, and it is always a great time getting lost in the forests of Bohemia. Kingdom Come Deliverance has arguably the best world design in video game history. Point KCD. And it is all tied up at 4-4. The last section that will decide the answer is Kingdom Come Deliverance better than The Witcher 3 is the section Animations and Textures. Recently, a game came out with facial animations and textures so bad that the gaming community at large turned it into a meme and ignored any fun aspects of the full game. If you don't live under a rock, you would recognize this as the tale of Darth Andromeda the Wise, a story the Jedi would not tell you. To be honest, I am very surprised this didn't happen to Kingdom Come Deliverance. Henry has about 4 animations for conversations. I swear, if he looks to the ground and points at nothing one more time, I am uninstalling the game. It's really sad to me that a game with really great combat animations did such a bad job with animating people talking. In comparison, The Witcher 3 has an incredible amount of speech animations for a game that has an algorithmic conversation animation system. Although every NPC encounter was not hand animated, instead compiling minor animations to be associated with specific words or phrases. Yes, I think The Witcher 3 has much better facial animations, but what about the combat sequences? How do they compare? To me, it comes down to one thing: blood and gore. And I've seen this in my YouTube comments nonstop. Kingdom Come Deliverance claims to be a realistic medieval simulator. But when I take out a group of humans, there is a significant lack of blood or any damage to the enemy, besides to their armor. In my opinion, the animation feels too light, not brutal at all. When I attack a bandit with no headgear Yes, he dies quickly, but there is a significant lack of realism to the way the game portrays death. Instead of earning their Peggy 18 rating with realistic damage in a sword fight, they chose Teresa's strange pointy boobs and a few F-bombs. Not to be gruesome, but in The Witcher 3, you can decapitate a bandit, cut off an arm or two, or just pick a side of the dude's neck and cut their damn torso in half. Obviously, less realistic than KCD, but at least they show a realistic amount of blood when someone dies by the sword. I think The Witcher 3 wins combat animations as well. However, nobody has earned a point in the last section yet because I have not talked about textures yet. Which game do I think has the better textures? Not just resolution, but art style. I think Kingdom Come Deliverance has the advantage in clarity. With the support of the Crytek engine, this game is filled with 4K textures. It is just a matter of if you can actually run the game with those settings. While playing KCD, I have never noticed a texture that looked blurry or otherwise did not scale well in 4096 x 2160. While Kingdom Come Deliverance can support these ridiculous texture sizes, as it is a more recent game, and The Witcher 3's textures were designed in 2K, which is 2048 x 2048, I still believe The Witcher 3 did a better job at designing the majority of objects that you will see. Yes, in Kingdom Come Deliverance, Henry's character model looks super realistic. It looks just like the actor who voiced and mocapped him, Tom McKay. So do some of the others, like Sir Divish, who obviously has the face of the writer, Daniel Varva. But when comparing the quality level of people like Sir Radzik and Henry to the everyday villagers and merchants that you'll be dealing with day to day, it is absolutely night and day. Most NPCs just look weird. I mean, and not to mention, there's a ton of female NPCs in Kingdom Come Deliverance, and they all just look fugly. Henry looks like he came out of a much higher budget game than everybody you'll be talking to on a regular basis. Yeah, real big problem. Warhorse Studios completely failed at designing an attractive woman. I don't care if everybody's a peasant, not all of them should look like a damn pug. You know what I'm saying? Half the women look like their face has been smashed in. It just looks terrible. I don't know what the hell happened. If you can tell by now, The Witcher 3 wins the final point for animations and textures, and is my favorite of the two games. So, the answer to the question is Kingdom Come Deliverance a better game than The Witcher? In my opinion, no, it is not. The Witcher 3 is a better game than Kingdom Come Deliverance. My name is Troy Harrison Chriest. Leave a like and please hit that subscribe button. Let's see how quick we can get to 3,000 subscribers. My name is Troy Harrison Chriest. Thank you all for watching, and I'm out of here.